Welcome to another exciting episode of On Deck with Anchor. Today, we'll be talking about the Nigerian Fintech regulation. I have Segun here with me. Hi, Segun.
Hi, Esther.
So every other week or every other month, there's a new Fintech regulation, and sometimes it's just really difficult to keep up with this. So I want to talk about some of the key recent regulation that Fintech companies should know about, and how they can just keep up with that.
Yeah, thank you for the question. The financial services space, where fintech companies are a part of it, is a heavily regulated space globally.
Yeah.
So absolutely, there is always a need for the regulation to evolve and keep up with the pace of innovation. There's a popular saying that innovation always precedes regulation, and many times regulation has to catch up. So the regulators in Nigeria are doing an amazing work, trying to keep up and ensure that there's a proper framework that guides the operations of fintech in Nigeria. Okay. So there's a lot of regulation, like you rightly said, and we can start talking about all of them. We wouldn't finish the episode, but I think it might be worth highlighting some recent ones that are important for fintechs to keep in mind. So the first one I would mention is the recent regulatory framework for the operations of open banking. Okay. We did a previous episode on open banking, so I wouldn't go into much of the details. But basically, it guides how data is being shared between financial institutions, third parties, and customer permission being granted for that to happen. So that's really what that regulation talks about. Okay. Another one that was also released this year, this one is still an exposure draft. It is around changes being made to the operations of agency banking in Nigeria. Okay. Because agency banking has also been getting a lot of attention in recent times. Definitely. There's been new developments that is different from what we had before. And because of that, there are now new changes. For example, the critical one that the exposure has brought to bear is the fact that there are other players that are not agents but are participating within the agency banking ecosystem. Okay. So for example, there are people who train agents. True. There are people who provide only software solution to those agents. There are other third-party providers that are not agents but they play within the agency banking space. And now this framework seeks to recognize them. Okay. So it is still an exposure draft.
What do you mean exposure draft? What do you mean?
An exposure draft is a guideline that is still being prepared and is exposed to the public and to stakeholders for feedback. Exactly. Okay. So people would look at it and say, okay, this idea of the regulation makes sense. This aligns with what obtains in the market. Okay. This is viable and feasible. And then based on the comment and the feedback, they give it back to the regulators and then they use it to come up with the actual guideline. Okay. So the guideline is the one that is enforceable. Okay. If you don't stick to the guideline, then you can be sanctioned by the CBN. Okay. So that's the second one. A third one is a regulation that was released by the FCCPC.
What does that mean?
So that's the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission. Okay. It's an agency that protects consumers, like the name connotes. Okay. And this new regulation is around the recent abuse where you see people would go and announce that somebody is dead because the person took a loan or that don't associate. Exactly. So it basically guides digital lenders. Okay. How they would collect and use customers' data. And that's basically what that guideline...
That's a very good one.
Exactly. And now a lot of the fintechs have been certified and actually registered with the FCCPC. Okay, so before you can be a digital lender, you need to be certified and registered with the FCCPC? That's correct. Oh, it's a new regulation just to curb the activities of digital lenders. So that's another one. And the last one I would mention, because we don't have a lot of time, is also another exposure draft that the CBN, in this case again, recently released that is speaking specifically to the activities or the process through which you can convert from one license, operating license to another. So before now, if you're a microfinance bank and you want to convert into, say, you want to become a commercial bank, it's a different path. There was no path to doing that.
So you have to apply for separate license. Exactly. And that can be
so now there's an exposure draft that basically guides around how you can convert from one type of license to another. If you feel like you're pivoting or you're changing your business model, you want to be able to do that easily.
Fluid.
So there's exactly more fluidity within the operating licenses.
Oh, great.
So yeah, there's a lot, but I think that's a good place to keep it for now.
I feel like this is a mini PhD. Like I learned a lot on this episode. Thank you, Segun. So we know that regulations will keep evolving. There will be new guidelines, but it's ultimately important to know that this works in favor of the fintechs and also for the consumers. That's it on today's episode of On Deck with Anchor. See you next time. Bye for now.